Alright, we're going to do another video on our QB78. We've got some results here from testing out a variety of pellets. We'll go over that in a second. First, I just want to hit some talking points I had on the that I have on the concerning the QB78. Probably shot about 300 rounds through it in the last couple of days, and to get an idea of what it's all about. First thing I want to mention is the basic fit and finish of the rifle. We already covered this in another video where I showed some close-ups of it. Really excellent. I don't think anybody has any reason to be disappointed with the very high quality wood, very high quality bluing on the steel, all metal parts, very good fit and finish to the wood. The only thing, and this is minor, this rubber butt pad is kind of goofy and really not necessary at all. I'll really prefer a hard butt plate, and I may go to one, but I have suspicion that it's pretty thick, probably almost 3/4 of an inch, and it may shorten the length of pull by going to a hard butt plate, shorter than what I really would want from me. So I don't know if I'll change that out or not. But it's really for 130 bucks. I mean, and that's including shipping. I think the basic price on this is $105 from Archer Airguns, and you really just couldn't ask for better wood. I don't know why the Chinese can do this so well when all the other firearms manufacturers and airgun manufacturers, you pay more than this for plastic parts and a plastic stock on Crosman. And even regular firearms manufacturers these days in America, you just don't get wood and quality of finish like this. You haven't for a long time in America, really. I mean, this harkens back to the days of 1950s, 1960s, pre-64 Winchesters, when you really got this level of care into the appearance. And the stock is very smooth, with no checkering. Some people might not like that. I really do. I really like the smoothness of it. I mean, it's really glass smooth. It's a very tight-grained wood. It may be sealed with some sort of plastic finish or something, or some sort of impregnation. I'm not sure. It doesn't look like an impregnated wood, but it's so smooth and hard feeling. It almost reminds you of a impregnated stock. So that's that. All right, let's go on to a negative. The safety lever. I'll give a close-up of this. It's right here. It's hard to, it has a very long throw. As you can see, it swings 180 degrees. It has broken in a little bit and gotten easier to move than it was. It's a little hard to use. Not that that's a huge deal, because if you lift the bolt, the gun's unsafe. And if the gun's cocked, when you lift the bolt, it'll automatically retract, and you can see. So, I mean, it has that as a safety. So I don't use this safety very much when I'm shooting it. It's okay. It clicks loud coming off. It's just not my favorite. A push button, I think, would have been a lot more effective. You have to take this off to get the stock out of the gun, to get the receiver and barrel out of the stock. I mean, so it may not go back in there when I may just leave it out the first time I take the gun down. Minor complaint, though, very minor. A major complaint I have is that there is no provision for degassing this. It uses 2 powerlets, and total number of trigger pulls to the point where you can unscrew the cap, where the pressure is dropped enough where you can unscrew the cap. It's probably about, and I'm going to test this further to get an exact number on this, it's probably about 75 or more trigger pulls. Probably depends on the temperature. At hotter temperatures, warmer, it may be less, and probably in colder temperatures, maybe even over 100 trigger pulls to actually get the gun degassed where you can take the cap off of it. I really find this to be a major disadvantage for somebody that's maybe been shooting through the day, has partially depleted it, and would like to regas it, say, so it'd be ready in the morning. They're gonna hunt with it or whatever, or if they want to keep a certain range of velocities, the ability to degas it would be a huge plus, where you could just drop the pressure, change the powerlets out, and know that they're fresh in there. I think it's a major drawback not being able to to be able to do that. Even at the point where you start noticing the velocity dropping significantly, you still have to cycle the action and fire it about 25 or 30 or maybe even more times to be able to drop the pressure enough to take the cap off. And I think that that's excessive wear and tear on the internal parts, the seals and O-rings and other mechanical parts, to have that mechanical wear just to be able to continue to use it and degas it and recharge it. Now, there is a fix to that. Archer does sell a replacement gas tube that has a degassing feature. I don't know, I haven't seen any reviews or anybody that has installed that yet. I don't know how well it works. There's not much information on it. It comes with a special key, a special tool that's inserted into the tube, and I assume presses the valve, retracts it a little bit, and lets you vent that gas. So that may be one of the first modifications that we do to it, and I think that modification is about $40. But I think that would be something I'd really like to have on it. I think it's for using one powerlet, you know, if it only used one, like Crossing 160, you know, you can fire it out pretty quickly and get ready to recharge it. But with two, it's a lot of gas in there. And it takes a long time to get it, you know, degassed so you can unscrew the cap. And you cannot unscrew it when it's pressurized. It has to be very close to zero pressure to be able to take the cap off. You can't put, you don't want to put pliers on it or anything like that. If you can't take it off with your fingers, you know, then you're gonna have to just keep cycling it and dry firing it. Okay, what else? The O-ring on the the O-ring on the cap for the CO2 tube, it's a little floppy. I've gotten some more coming. After the first time I unscrewed it, degassed the gun, unscrewed it to change out the powerlets, I noticed it was kind of fitting kind of loose. And I think if you let it sit for a little bit, it seems to tighten back up, but it can be so loose on there that it's actually hard to get it to go back into the tube and screw it back on. You kind of have to work it around with your fingers. I don't know if you know, maybe unscrewing it with even the little bit of pressure that I did and let it vent through the vent hole in the cap, maybe that loosens it a little bit. I know if you let it sit overnight, it tends to shrink back into its original size and go into its groove better, and then you can put it back in. That was something kind of odd, but I do have a seal kit coming, and I'll be changing out that O-ring anyway. The trigger on it, really pretty gold. It's comfortable. It's all metal. You know, it feels nice. It has the pull weight on it was about 2.5 pounds, which I thought was really good. It has a long. I'll dry fire it here and show you. It has a long travel. Let's see how far we're going here, and a little bit of unpredictability at the point that it's going to break. It's very consistent pull weight throughout the whole travel with no kind of stacking or anything, so it's a little hard to predict exactly when it's going to go off. So it is adjustable though, and the first time when we do the seal kit, we'll play with the adjustments, and there is a travel adjustment on it and a stop. So I think we can take up that slack a little bit in it and probably get the trigger to be a little bit more user friendly. It's not too bad though, really. It's something you can get used to pretty easily, and it doesn't seem to affect the, you know, especially off the bench, you know, the group sizes. You know, it's not really a detriment to accuracy. It's just not quite what you want. You want something a little crisper, a little bit shorter travel, and less over travel. It's just kind of creepy. It's smooth. It's not gritty or crunchy or anything. Just a little bit of long travel and a little creepy. One problem we had shooting it, the only function problem I had, is I had a power lock. I had charged it in an air conditioning room, brought it outside, it sat on the bench for a little bit while I got stuff set up, and then I started shooting it, and I was actually going to fire a complete 100 shot string or to whatever the point that it degassed itself over the chrono and get a complete charged shot screen over the chronograph. Well, what happened was about 15 or 16 rounds into the shot string, the pressures dropped from the 500 range, 550 range down to right about 300. or a little bit less, so half the power dropped. And I think at that point in time we had a power lock. It was about 92 degrees outside that day. It was very hot. I didn't really understand at the time, appreciate what exactly was happening, so I continued to shoot it, and over time the pressure did start to curve back up, but it never got back to full pressure. It really topped out about 500, and then after that I kind of really started to understand that the gun was overheated, and we'd power lock the valve, and I should have taken it into the cool room and let it sit for a while and then come back out and shot it. But it was really hot that day. It was 92, 93 degrees and direct sun, and I think that may be pretty close to the limits of what, the temperature limits of what you can do with it without having to take it back inside or shade it or whatever and cool it a little bit, and remove that power lock. And the thing is, without being able to degas it, if it power locks, there's nothing external you can do about that. You can't unscrew the cap, drop the power, or anything. It's just locked until you cool it down, or until you shoot off. If it's shooting at all, until you shoot the pressure off, there's nothing else you can do. But those were extreme conditions. Let's go on to our accuracy testing. I had 4 pellets to test with. Flip that around. And let's see what we got here. I got some targets. Let's start with the worst one, which was the Excite. And I don't see the Excite. Well, I'll go ahead and show them. These are the Excite 7.48 grain clinking pellets. Here they are right here. These pellets have never been the best shooting pellets in any gun I've tried them in. They're not that much cheaper, and I really don't see the purpose of them. Now all of these targets were shot at 63 feet. It's outdoors, variable winds. I've had quite a bit of crosswind the last couple days through the backyard here, so we have had a little bit of windage spreading the groups out. These were the Excites. You can see overall that's about a 2.5 inch group, and then this one was a little tighter, but yeah, like I said, I don't really see the point of the Excite pellets at all. I probably won't be repurchasing any of those. Go on to the next ones. The next worst was the Camo Match. Let's show a group right here. They weren't too bad, the Camo Matches. Had a little flyer here. That went 1.5 inches was the maximum spread on that group. These are Diablo Matches are, get you a weight on these, are 15.43 grains. They were coming out right at 445 to 490. Had a little consistency issues with these pellets, not only on the velocity, but it actually wasn't the best. And there's not really match about these pellets. They call them the Camo Match. They have a pretty box, but there's really not anything match about them. If you visually inspect them, and I haven't run any of them on a scale, but if you look at them closely, you can tell you're going to have weight variances. They have a lot of flashing on the side of them, a seam that's pretty prominent, and they don't look like they've been sized after they were cast. And you can see the amount of flashing and the amount of material left on that seam can vary from pellet to pellet. So they don't visually seem very consistent. Shooting them, they don't seem all that consistent. I don't know what is match about them. They're probably not something I'll reorder for this gun at any rate. The star of the show, let's see, we'll move to the next one, the next best. The next best grouper were these Umarex Super Points. These have the Ruger logo on them. They're marketed and sold with like the Ruger Impact and Yukon. The gun shot these very well. They're pointed pellets and heavy pellets at 16.9 grains. I was glad to see that the gun shot these well, because these are available at Walmart and they're pretty cheap, so I can get them. And the gun did pretty well with them. Show you some groups here. We got a 1 inch group right here. These were shot off the bench, like I said, at 63 feet. velocities 466 to 467. Very consistent velocities with this pellet. I really like the way it's shot in this gun. It's a good choice for hunting with the weight and the pointed tip. If you drop out that flyer there, that's basically 4 shots in one hole right there. They just kept going. They will just keep going in the same spot, which I really do appreciate that those pellets shot that well. Star of the show of these 4 pellets was the here's another group with the super points. You can see had that one outstanding flyer there. That's about 3/4 of an inch right there. And the overall group on this was 1 1/4 inches with 5 shots. Like I said, our star of the show so far has been the Beeman rounds, which wasn't really a big surprise. I've had other guns that shot these pellets better than anything else. There's a typical group here. Very consistent velocities. Oops. Very consistent velocities on them. The 491 to 496 on this group in the velocity. That group there is about 1/2 to 3/4 of an inch. Had that flyer right there, which brought it out to about 1 inch. And these seem to be the most consistent, just group after group after group, really coming in really tight, and really tight standard deviation on these two. And I'm going to do some more chrono testing and kind of give some of those numbers up too. So I did actually ordered more of those Beemans. They shot so well out of the gun. One thing I noticed in the grouping them, your first 2 shots with the good pellets will usually go in basically the same hole, possibly the 3rd shot, and then you can fire it pretty fast. You're just opening the bolt, putting a pellet in, closing the bolt, and refiring it. So I think you get a little cooling, a little bit of pressure drop. The 4th and 5th shots tend to be more likely to be outlying flyers. But you know, for hunting or just plinking or whatever, that's not really a huge deal if you're swipe it off on that 4th or 3rd or 4th or 5th shot. If you're hunting, it's the 1st and 2nd shot, most of the 1st shot, that really counts. And it's really easy to shoot, and you just can really pull it out and put that 1st shot exactly where you want it to. And I really appreciate that about it, without all the barrel breaking, cocking, and all that, all the other convenience you get with the CO2. And the power level has been great. So that's it for right now. The only modifications we've done to it so far is I took the sights off and I put the scope on it. This scope is something I had laying around. It's a Bushnell 3x9. A little bit much for this gun. I'm probably going to go to something smaller and simpler. There's no reason to have a 9 power scope on this. A 6 or a 4 power even would be fine. Excuse me. I do have a seal kit coming from Archer, and so that will be the first internal modification we do. We're going to go ahead and do the do this seal. Do the gas tube to barrel seal. Supposedly get a significant increase of velocity when we do that. We'll see. Other modifications that we're considering, there's the narrow bolt where you replace the bolt and get a probe type bolt. Supposedly picks up some a little bit of power. Makes it harder to load though. It's just real easy to load. You can drop a pellet in there and it just pushes it right along real easily. And I know those probe type bolts, they're a little harder to use. We'll see what sort of velocity we get with the seal change. If I'm happy with that, we may leave the bolt alone. The degassing powered cylinder here, power tube, is something I'm really considering on it. I think that it would be a good accessory to have. I'd like to get a little more information on it before I commit the $40 or whatever to it, and then the work that it requires to change it out, to see how convenient, how well they work. So we'll see about that, and then from there we'll see what other kind of modifications we want to do internally. One thing I wanted to mention about this, as much as I've praised this stock and how nice it is, the amazing thing, and I think this is amazing, that with these the QB family, this is only one of, I think, 4 different stock choices that are available for this at reasonable prices. You can buy a thumb hole stock. There's some that are set up more for match shooting, for bench shooting. And I can't think of any other air gun where you really get a choice of 4 different high quality wood stocks that you can choose to put on your gun. I mean, I think that's really an outstanding thing. That, and plus all the modifications and information that's available out there on these, I think is another really really high selling point for these. Just the level of support that you get for them, not only in materials that are available as far as accessories that you can purchase, but in knowledge that people will share and share about these. You know, from Mr. Archer to all the people on his blog and all the other people that you know, that shoot these. It's a 25-year-old gun. It's been very popular and well supported. So, you know, pretty much anything you need to know about it, it's pretty much out there. As far as the disassembly and all that goes, and installing these modifications, from the videos I watched, it doesn't look that hard. We'll find out when I get into it here, and that'll be probably next week. We'll be doing a video of installing the O-ring and see if the results live up to what, you know, what the Mr. Archer and those other people claim they do, is when you change out that seal. So we'll see. But that's it. I'll wrap it up. Saul saying have a great day. Happy shooting. Be careful. Thanks for watching.